Hi, welcome. So this week we're going to be drawing hands and figures of people. So what I'm going to need you to do is either use yourself as a model with your hands. If no one in your house is willing to model for you, you can use a mirror or you can take photographs with your phone or camera. But if possible, it'd be best if you could get a mix of older and younger, male and female. So as you see here, I've drawn my hand just laying here on my sketchbook. I started with the bone structure underneath, and I think that's the best way. So often students want to draw the contour line first, but I like to lay out the actual knuckles in my fingers and in my thumb. So my thumb has two knuckles and my fingers have three knuckles, but there's also bones in my palm for each of them, and so that allows the kind of the flexibility to clench my hand and make any kind of gesture as possible. But as you see here, I've been working in charcoal, and I just keep layering and darkening and darkening. But I've done all of my lines kind of in the direction of a cross contour to show the form and also kind of show the dark and the light. And so, the hand is really an effective means for conveying, emotional and instinctive gestures. Here the hand is kind of like leading you towards the corner of the page, kind of leading you into the rest of this demo. So your homework this week is to draw four hands in cross contour and four hands in value tonal ranges from black to white. So this first one is I'm going to show you is essentially foreshortened hand coming towards me. I photographed this with my phone. Um, and once you've kind of gained confidence with like really easy gestures, like flat hand, I suggest that you look at hands coming towards you or kind of hands looking farther away from you. And don't be put off if this seems difficult at first because it's going to look odd, but you're going to have to just kind of practice with it. But notice how the tips of my fingers are actually much bigger because they're much closer to your eye, showing that perspective. So here I'm doing the cross contour, and now I'm adding the contour really nice and dark, kind of make it look like what you would see in the kind of a more animation, the cartoon style. This next one I'll do with graphite, just a regular HB pencil, and I'll use a 6B pencil. And here again, this is foreshortened, um, of my finger pointing directly towards you. And it's going to look kind of odd because it doesn't look how we want to imagine or how we believe a finger looks pointing towards us, right? Because we always kind of turn the finger profile, whereas here you're actually looking at something a little bit more abstract and less literal of a finger pointing towards you. It's I guess in a way that you don't necessarily think about, and so this is going to take some time really observing and visualizing this. And when I say observe, I want you to think of first observing the main structure of the bones underneath, and then consider the veins, consider the flesh, building the muscle on top of that, and the skin covering all of that, holding everything together. So this next one I'm going to show you is clenched fist, and so I started this one out with very straight lines, kind of made boxes or rectangles, uh, and to kind of fit it all in, lay it all in, figure out how to get my thumb over top of my clenched curled fingers. And then this last one I'm going to show you kind of with that open palm, but my fingers kind of in the background, my thumb is a little closer in the foreground. Doing this one in graphite. And that first knuckle of my hands, I'm going to have it kind of curved upward, but that last knuckle, I'm going to make that curve down, and that's going to show that shape of the hand kind of making a gripping motion. And so here you have all these cross contour. I even throw a little shadow in the cross contour. Doing both vertical and kind of the horizontal lines. But also with the hands, I'm letting it be a little bit more organic, and so I'm having diagonal lines, creating that grid over the palm. That kind of, just kind of how you imagine and feel. You have to imagine that you're kind of like a sculptor, but you're not working with clay. You're working with dark and light, and how you can add and remove darkness, and how you can add light and remove light, um, is really kind of what you have to play with to create the illusion of this three-dimensional form. So here I am drawing a female hand. Female hands tend to be a little bit more delicate, a little slender, more slender, and so I suggest that you try a mix of trying to get a guy and a female to pose for you, um, and so you get a little bit of practice of variety. Here you've also got two fingers pointing straight out, whereas the thumb and the ring finger and the pinky are kind of coming together over top of the palm. So you have to kind of navigate how to play that through. I'm coming in now, darkening up the actual contour lines, but also adding these creases in the palm, kind of gives more shape and a little bit more character to the hand as well. So now kind of adding in this ring, and kind of coming in, cleaning it up, adding highlights and bringing those highlights out, kind of cleaning up some of those cross contour lines, completely removing them to show highlights. And so here it is. I feel like it could use a little bit more work, so I'm going to come back in after a break and darken it in, push the contrast a little bit more, and really kind of work out the details and show the fabric as well, kind of curving and coming in and darkening in those creases in the hand. You can't go too far. It's all right to be a little bit more dramatic, and a little bit darker. In my opinion, that you kind of push it, because if you need to, you can come back and erase. But going too light isn't going to give it the kind of the oomph and the pop it needs to kind of come off the page. So this one I am doing, starting to sketch all in graphite, and then I'm going to come back and ink it up with my gray tone markers. And I started light and went mid grays, and now adding black, my dark gray. And really, what I'm looking here is just how I can show the different value tones, the range, but also doing it in a way where I can show the direction of the hand and all of its form, and the wrinkles in the hand, and how the hand folds. So that's really key, and showing that the dark allows me to curl those fingers in such a way that they can be foreshortened and still seem believable. All right, so the main thing is to start. Number one, sketch the main lines, the bones, the direction. Think about the proportions um, of the fingers to the palm. Think of the finger joints and the relative spacing of the joints on the fingers. So you can show that on the top side of the hand, through kind of where the wrinkles are in each of our knuckles. Um, so this one I started with those bones, kind of creating the directions in each segment of the finger. Um, and then here now I'm filling out the shading, and I've added the contour line just for uh, dramatic purposes. But I'm actually considering now I'm going to go in and I'll come back in and darken the background, all the negative space, black, just to really get this one to pop because it's kind of light. And really come in and do that with ink. And so this is a little mixed media. I'm doing colored pencil, gray tone colored pencils on top of ink. And um, well, actually, this was just all colored pencil except for the black ink. So here I'm going to do this one in a subtractive method. So I laid in my gray pastel. You can use gray pastel or black pastel, uh, charcoal, compressed charcoal, vine charcoal, whatever you can find. You can even go in with graphite and lay it in, and so here I am pulling it away with the eraser, coming in and darkening those veins, uh, pulling out the highlights of the knuckles, trying to show, make this hand believable that the other two knuckles worth of fingers are hidden behind the first set of knuckles. So trying to kind of create a curve on those, and also that the thumb is kind of behind and back, and so creating that shadow in behind it, coming in and adding little details and really trying to play out all of these shadows that come into the texture of the hand, and showing those veins. And then finishing it up with just kind of cleaning up my background so it pops out a little bit more, a little darker on the dark side, a little lighter on the side of the direction where the light is coming. So that one was done all charcoal and the gray pastel. On the white, came in with some white pastel as well, just to bring out the highlights. So here's examples of what I'm looking for this week. So I'm looking for 8 hands total. 4 of them are going to be cross contour, like I showed early on. You can put all 4 on one page. And then I'm looking for you to do 4 more that are full tonal value range. And complete. You can even add in a little dark background like I did with the subtractive method. Um, and have fun with it, play with it. You can even go, if you photograph somebody else's hands, get both hands making a gesture, and then you can kind of save a little time on getting model. Or have someone photograph your hands, and if you do both hands doing some kind of gesture together, it can be really unique. And you might also want to try holding objects as well. So then we're going to move on to the figure. So the figure, I like to think of some general proportions, in that the head is 1/8 of the height of the body, relatively. So they usually say classical proportions are anywhere from like 7.5 to 8 head lengths are the height of the body. So here we're going to do really quick gestural and directional sketches, and then I come in and I build up kind of from the bone structure out, every layer, the flesh and the muscles, and cover it with the skin and the clothes. And I'm doing these are my cross contour versions, so I'm looking for this as well this week. A male and a female, if possible, done in cross contour. And I've kind of pushed a little value in here, but for the most part, all of the value you see is from a line. And so this next one, I'm going to show you this gentleman sitting along the beach side, and for you to consider that you're going to have for shortened limbs. So his thigh that's closest to him is raised a little bit, which allows him to kind of rest his foot on the bench he's sitting on. And meanwhile, his other leg is his right leg is extended out completely, and we see the bottom of his foot at an angle. So I'm going to again lightly lay this out, sketch out, try to get all my proportions correct. This is my first one, so it's kind of a little rusty, but I'm looking at shadows and looking at cross contour and how I can kind of combine the two, make each line work for both direction and value. And so coming in, got to work on the hands. Hands are really difficult, I think, when the smaller they get. The larger room you have to work on a hand, the easier. But when they're smaller, the slightest mistake is really really makes things look awkward. But so here I've come in, kind of laid in the setting as well, just so that it feels like he's not just floating in midair, right? Let you know what he's sitting on, kind of where he's at, and you can do that with just lines. I like to use these directional lines in the in each object in the ground as well as what he's sitting on, just so that you get a good sense of a firm ground plane and so forth. So kind of finishing up. I feel like his one knee needs to be raised up a little bit, and so I'm going to keep erasing and pulling that out a little bit, playing with it so it just seems right, and that's close to about accurate. So this drawing is a good example of how you can build up those contour and cross contour lines so you have enough value that you can eventually erase it and bring out highlights. So this next drawing that we're going to do is also of this woman I met on the Corniche, and as part of a project that I'm doing called Kuwait Fashion Fridays. But let's move on to kind of focusing on the drawing. So we started with a vertical line that kind of runs the whole length. I measured the photograph and I'm scaling it 2 times so that it fills the whole page. So I made some measurements, both height and width, and make sure that all my proportions are the same. I'm not going to be worried too much about faces. So all of the models that I have for this are all wearing sunglasses. You don't have to draw the face whatsoever, but I've also come in and I've added some perspective lines to show the setting of the Corniche and the Gulf behind her. You don't have to do too much. I'm not looking for a lot. I feel those lines are a little off, so I'm going to come back and, especially in the foreground, kind of play with those. But I'm not expecting too much, but it's good to show at least some shadow. And a few lines in the background really help kind of set the setting and allows the figure to kind of come out from the background, whereas a blank white background seems very flat and doesn't allow for much depth and the illusion of space. So I'm going to do this gentleman's drawing on the inside of a carton on cardboard. And so I cut this carton open and laid it flat. So last week I had some students ask me what to do if they don't have any paper. So this is a great method. And this is just like working on tan paper, but this is a great method for adding and subtracting using both black and white. So I'm going to try to do this drawing with just black and white, and then having that mid-tone of the cardboard to kind of play my 50% gray. Um, so come in and have built it up, and trying to bring out each highlight a little stronger with the white, and push my shadows with the black. And there you have it there. So consider that you can work on a lot of variety of different surfaces. Be creative. If you don't have any paper, you can always work on the back of previous sketches as well. Um, but do consider some other things you can do. So I'm going to do this next one in all ink, laid out sketch really light, and actually I erased it all because I don't like to let my markers get all dirty from graphite. So I actually remove as much of the lead as possible, the graphite from the paper. So coming in and just shading with the gray tone markers, but also kind of showing this cross contour of that plaid shirt. Plaid shirts are a great way of seeing the wrinkles and folds of fabric. Making sure that his thumb's on the bottom of those glasses, and his pointer fingers right on the top ridge of the glasses. So come in, add just a light background, and there you have it. It's going to not too much. Just maybe come in, darken up the shadows, just to pull his face out a little bit more. Kind of set his arm out forward and show a little bit of variation in that black of the pants. And reevaluate the contour. Might have the negative space between his shoes and his the rest of his body. So then here, just kind of finalizing, cleaning that out, and there you have it. So this was a cross contour, all done with ink. So I know that ink and markers aren't on the class supply list, but you can use whatever you can find in your house. And this next one I'm going to do with just the fine tip Sharpie marker. And here I'm going to start this one with all kind of very straight lines, very rigid lines, and then build the curvature over top of it. And I'm going to build all my value just with lines. So this is going to be cross contour and just build up all of my shadow just like that with cross hatching. And as you can see, it takes a little time, but it can be quite rewarding. Adding shadow with just a regular marker kind of gives a variation, so that cast shadow. And then in the end, I came in and added a little colored pencil just to kind of give it a more texture. All right, moving on. The last figure I'm going to draw is a self-portrait. It's a photograph my wife took of me in Cairo while I was photographing some street cats. And here I'm going to just do really quick directional lines, and kind of lay it in really fast, kind of try to get the expression of this gesture that I'm making, this pose of being completely bent over and nearly touching the ground. So consider if you pose and have somebody photograph for you, or if you photograph someone else, consider more difficult poses where you have to consider not seeing one side of the body or one arm, where the head is not all the way at the top, where maybe not all the feet are on the ground. So here I've even come in and added some of the cats, but I don't want to add too much detail because I don't want them to be the center focus. I want the attention of resolution to be on me as the figure. Coming in, darkening the pants on the dark side. I'm going to fill in the whole, even the front side of the pants are dark, but not as dark. So, that comes with layers and pressure and building it up and being able to see the shadow and the crust contour laid in together, and even finished off with some highlights, pulling that out with the eraser. All right, so let's look at some student examples. First, let's look at figures that were drawn from life. So, you have the option of doing drawings from both photograph or anyone that can model for you at home. And, I suggest starting off with some practice drawings. So these drawings that you're looking at now are all 10 or 20-minute quick pose sketches. And most of them, what you're seeing right now, are 10-minute sketches. So I would set a timer and try to get a whole drawing done, the whole figure in a page in 10 minutes. It's going to require you to kind of maybe hold your pencil differently, put your thumb on top of the pencil, and to keep your pencil continually moving, um, and rarely picking it up off the paper, maybe just um, uh, to sharpen it. But if you use a marker or if you use any kind of ink, pen of any sort, that you're going to have that continuous flow of ink coming onto the paper. So, so continue to think of ways that you can loosen up and get really quick about it. And then if you can lay out the whole figure in 10, 15 minutes, you can spend 30 more minutes and really resolve bring it to a conclusion. Um, so these here, kind of building up to I think the longer poses, where you add a bit more value, more shading. You have more time to do that. Once you've gotten the whole structure in, you can finish off by adding those tonal values. Um, a lot of these started as really quick, loose, fluid um, sketches that in class, the way that we usually do it is kind of go around. Whoever wants to model can model, um, and now we're looking at some poses where you're sitting. So I would mix that up too, standing and sitting poses. Um, Allows you to have kind of these more foreshortened thighs and kind of view people here with crossed legs, and how those two legs can interact, and um, as opposed to legs that are spread apart. You're going to want to look at people from side angles, profile, 3/4 angles, even from nearly all the way to the back. um, these can become important. You never know when they can become important. Um, as I was working as a courtroom sketch artist, I never knew before that I would be drawing the backs of people's heads. And so you just never know. And lastly, we're going to be looking at student examples where the figures were drawn from photo. And so with photo, you have a bit more time, a bit more luxury, but you don't have kind of the person right there. So I like to work from both photo and life if possible, um, because having the person there allows you to kind of see the being and the real form rather than this flat image that's been printed or is on the screen. Um, so if you have the luxury of being able to model or have someone model for you and be able to have and photograph them, you can get more details. You can let them change that pose or leave or whatever, and you can continue to draw them. If you're going to photograph them and work from them as a live model, make sure you photograph from that exact same angle. Hold that camera directly out in front of you and try to get that exact same eye level and angle. Um, the photograph really allows you to look at value as well, and to take a value range finder and place it up against it, either printed or on your screen, to push yourself to get darker, push yourself to make sure your blacks are black. Um, and with photographs, you can think about it. You can go back and look through your archive of photos that you've taken of your friends and turn one of those into a drawing. The one thing that I really require is that I see feet and the top of the head. So be able to get the whole figure into the page, and make sure you fill the page. So think about the scale that it needs to be, and make sure that when you scale it up, that your proportions are the same, both vertically and horizontally. And then you can push it if you want, uh, really dark, and also get into details. So if you have any questions this week, please do not hesitate to email me. Looking forward to what you have to draw. Good luck, and I wish you the best.